Welcome to my fourth film in the Life After Lockdown series. Today I'm joined by actor and comedian Nina Gilligan. Nina, hello!
Hello Rachel, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
I'm okay.
Good. Now, as a live performer, how are you finding lockdown?
You know what, I live with a family of introverts and I'm the only extrovert, so I feel like they're coping really well. Like they're kind of built for it. Where I feel like my showing off gene is not, I'm not allowed to show off. I've got no outlet for it really. So my best friend at the moment is the radio and the dogs.
How many dogs do you have?
Two, one for every nervous breakdown. I've had six so far.
Oh wow! What kind of dogs are they?
My first one is Scruffy. He's an upcycled second-hand dog, quite ethical. We got him from a rescue centre. My husband said if we have to have a dog, which at this point I was mithering like a 3-year-old girl, then we need to get an ethical dog. My second dog, she came to us in October and she was the empty nest dog after my daughter went off to university. So I saw this ridiculous creature online. It's a Carvapoo, which sounds like a bad night on the bubbly, doesn't it? She's this ridiculous ball of fluff. Scruffy's actually embarrassed to be seen with her, he's told me. But they are adorable. They're incredibly therapeutic. I wrote a play about a woman that had rescued a dog to help her with a mental health issue. Might have been slightly autobiographical. To get called Rescued, to help her get over leaving her ex-husband, and the dog morphed between being a husband and a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. I think, I read about this. It was, did you perform at the Manchester Fringe?
Yeah, we did. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of truth in it, I thought.
I'm sure. Have you been doing any more writing?
I've tried to reframe the fact that I've been doing very little writing in lockdown as this sounds absolutely, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this. So
Go for it.
Sounds like wank. What I've been reframing the fact that I've done very little writing on this is a time to absorb and experience, and later I will produce.
Right.
So that's the way I've been reframing that I've done very little. I did some comedy stuff which I performed on BBC Radio Sheffield and on Radio Manchester. The problem I have with it is that there's no live feedback, and essentially what I do, as you know Rachel, is perform live, and I do struggle with not having road tested some of this material and not knowing whether it's absolute shit. So I find it problematic.
Yeah, I imagine that's quite strange with the comedy, to just write it and go straight out with it and really, get no response at all.
Winging a prayer. I was desperately checking Twitter for signs of life. I like to see them and smell them, really, the audience, if I can.
So with all the, gigs, everything kind of on hold at the moment, has there been any support for people in your industry?
There has. Kiri Pritchard-McLean, a friend of mine and well-known comedian, and some friends of hers, they set up a gig called the COVID Arms. Now that's on every weekend, and they've had Frankie Boyle, I was on with Nish Kumar, they've had everyone. I have to say it was the scariest gig I've ever done in my life, and it was like an anxiety dream because I was on with Tom Allen, Nish Kumar, and with me in the middle, which is a big lineup. Wow. but I was just on my own in my living room. I couldn't see anyone, not wearing any pants. It was horrendous. But the money went both to the Trussell Trust for food banks.
Brilliant.
And a proportion of the money went to the Life Circuit Act. I was really impressed how the industry pulled together to sort of support people that were immediately in need of help.
I know that recently there's been some very negative news in the headlines about discrimination, even abuse of women in the comedy industry, and that you're joining the campaign for positive change on that.
Comedy is sort of having a Me Too moment. Sadly, as in other industries, there are inequalities for women at every level. It's more difficult to get booked as a female act. It's more difficult probably to enter the industry as a female act. We get paid less. There seems to be a lot of stories about sexual harassment and abuse amongst females in the industry. One of the problems we have is, unlike a workplace where you might be able to go and report the situation to HR, that there is no HR. In order to be taken seriously, you need to get paid work, because then the next promoter wants to know who have you worked for and have you been paid, and that's kind of the currency. So you can't afford to upset a promoter. So you're actually living on your reputation, which makes it really difficult for you to cause any waves or any problems. So if something does happen to you, where do you go? Something happened to me very early on. On the face of it, the promoter was a respectable person, and there was no reason that I shouldn't have trusted them. And they took a really intense interest in my career. And I'd not long come out, and bearing in mind I was 40, you know, I thought I could sort of handle myself, and I'd come out of working in the probation service, which is risk management. I mean, that's the trade. I thought I could risk manage, and I felt pretty streetwise. So he just was somebody that was really intensely interested in me. And there was a lot of crowding behaviour in terms of he would ring me on an almost daily basis, and he was always emailing and always messaging. But because I was new to the circuit, I hadn't really had access to other people who might have been able to tell me, you should keep an eye on him, actually. He's a little bit dodge. So without going into, because I haven't really gone into details publicly anyway, and without going into too many details, I ended up in a situation where there was what you call a corporate gig. So that's for, rather than, you know, for the public, it's for an organisation. I ended up in a corporate gig where I'd arrived at the accommodation that had been, I found out I was booked into the same room. And when I complained, I was booked into a different room, but only because there was two ladies behind me, two women behind me that said, oh, you can stay in our room, we've got a spare bed. But again, without going into too many details, as the night progressed, I ended up getting cornered and an abuse took place. So I didn't, it's so difficult because I've thought about this a lot over the last few days, and it's so hard because he knew what he'd done, and the day after he begged me not to tell my husband and begged me to continue working with him. and I was really angry, and I made it really clear to him. I was really angry.
Yeah.
And
what do you think if you could turn back the clock and sort of give yourself, some advice in the lead up to that and on that day, what would you say to yourself there? Well, what would you say to other people that might be in that situation now?
It's funny because I was talking to my daughter about it this afternoon, and I was saying, I wish I told my partner, because I didn't tell him for a year, and I wish I'd phoned the police.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I actually did was hid it, buried it, told a few people on the circuit, went back to work for him.
Because you're worried about, this is early career, so you want the work, and you feel that that's the only choice.
But then with the outpouring in the last couple of weeks, there's two things that happened. I was really concerned that the story was going to come out anyway and it wouldn't be within my control. And I think that's quite difficult for a victim.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that I read Kiri's article, and she had spoken about we cannot rely on a whisper network to keep women safe. And what about the women that are new to the industry who don't have access to the network?
Yeah, yeah.
So we need to do better.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Mine is just one of so many stories. I mean, I'm okay. There's lots and lots and lots of stories coming out, and comedians are making apologies, and I think there's probably more to come. What I really want to see happen is to be some kind of centralised, independent body that we can go to when things go wrong.
Yeah. And what would it take to get something like that set up?
Well, we've been starting to talk about it. We have a comedy association that was set up in the light of COVID called the LCA, which is a steering group, and they're starting to talk about a code of conduct. I think myself and other women are talking about getting something a bit more solid than that. We want to see an organisation, something that you can go to that maybe has an administrator, it has a HR, like a full-time HR person. We want every club to sign up to a code of conduct, to have a system for an internal reporting procedure, and we want a kite marking system. So that if we're getting a lot of reports from the same clubs and it's not being dealt with, that they don't get the seal of approval that it's a safe place to play.
I read somewhere that they estimate something like, up to about 80% of incidents that occur go unreported.
I mean, I think it's like around 84%. I mean, it's high.
Yeah.
And the reasons for that are that women don't think they'll be believed, and still in 2020 that is the case. I mean, I was an ex-probation service worker who was 40 years of age, who didn't have the confidence to come forward. And, I experienced some guilt and shame over that. It's very difficult to define it and call it out with confidence. And a lot of women I know have experienced in their lifetime some form of sexual harassment, abuse, assault.
And as you say, it's shocking that even now in 2020 it is still commonplace, but I think it's a good time, people, whether it's to do with lockdown or what, but people seem to be going through, there's a lot of kind of enlightenment, a lot of people saying, do you know what, we're not standing for it anymore, whether it's racism, sexism, whatever. people seem to be, you know, increasingly intolerant of this and saying, no, it's unjust and actually we're not going to stand for it anymore. So I think, you know, again, it might be one of the strange kind of bonuses of lockdown is that people have had a bit of time to stand back and they're not caught up in the crazy. And they think, actually, you know, we're not going to have this anymore, you know. So I think it's great, and there seems to be, as you say, a bit of a movement going now for this campaign, and more people coming out and sharing their stories, which need to be heard, so that people can see it is a real problem. And
absolutely, and I hope so. And I was really. It's great to see, you know, all the inequalities being tackled across the comedy world. I know I saw an article from Catherine Ryan last night where she's refusing to be on Mock the Week now. I don't know if you saw that, because she refuses to be the only woman that's booked. She's called in it like the pedestal comedian.
Right.
This idea that you know, there shouldn't just be one of us. There should be. We should be equally represented at the top of the tree.
Yeah.
And
that's great, and that's bold, isn't it? You know, it's a
really bold move.
If people can take a stance like that, because that will really facilitate change, won't it? Hopefully.
So from people like me who are, you know, on the live circuit, right through to people like Catherine Ryan who've got a huge profile. It's just great to see women coming together and trying to make some kind of changes in the industry, and men as well, I have to say. That I have had an incredible amount of inbox messages from men, not only apologising that kind of knew the story, but didn't know what to do about it. And I understand what could they have done. But also men saying, what can I do and how do I sign up? Brilliant. And what we want to make things better, so it's good. That is
really good and very positive. So
absolutely.
Excellent. And obviously during this lockdown time then, I know you've been carefully avoiding writing so that you can come back to it refreshed. But what have been apart from some lovely dog walks, what have been the highlights for you? I'm sure, you know, being there with your family, I'm sure that's caused a few interesting moments.
I think there's just been, oh my goodness, there's just been like themes to the lockdown, hasn't there? I think we've just gone through, so hard to reflect now. It was lovely. I think I went through a real crazy phase at the beginning of, I'm going to need to fill my time, and I became like the northern version of Kirsty Allsop, where I was just crafting like a crazy woman. So I was like crocheting and decoupaging and you name it, I was doing it. So that was like quite an enjoyable phase.
Yeah. Did you go through a baking phase? Did you get on the banana bread?
I didn't do a baking phase. I'm not keen on cooking. My son's brilliant at it, and I think that was just out of necessity. It's like, did you ever watch Butterflies? It was just like, oh, my mum can't do it. I'll have to take over. So I think so crafting was a big thing, and then Spanish. I learnt some Spanish, and then we decorated the living room.
Very nice.
We did that for a bit.
Lovely.
We went green.
Yeah. Great.
Then but we've had phases of bursts of activity. We did the garden. I've grown a lot of tomatoes. I've got 30 tomato plants, but not many flowers. So I could have just grown a lot of leaves. That's what I'm worried about.
Do you like tomatoes?
I do like tomatoes, but I was just like, on the day before lockdown, I was like, it's coming, and I ran to B&Q, and I stocked up on seeds because I thought I'm going to need something to do.
That's it.
But then there was a period where I just stared at the walls because I just thought, you know what? Why are we bothering trying to get so? Why are we bothering trying to get so much done Just be.
Just be. I found that I came out of the blocks far too quick, and with 2 little ones at home, I was like, right, here's my schedule for the day. We've got arts and crafts, we've got den building, we've got gardening, we've got bike riding, and it was kind of probably by about 10:30 on the first day. I thought this is too much.
Just chill out. Oh yeah, I've got a bike.
Just chill.
I've got an electric bike, which is cheating.
It is a little bit. Do you cycle on it when you're on the flat and then just power up the hills, or do you just
have
coast?
it on 3 all the time. Really, I burn my husband. He's at the bottom of the hill, and he can cycle. I think I'm in the British cycling team. They practice round here. I'm passing them all. The peloton.
My goodness. Yeah, it is cheating. To be honest with you. You need to switch that into manual or whatever it's called, and actually cycle a little bit.
I know. There's no motivation, because it's quite good fun as well.
And in the meantime, you've got a beautiful green living room, so that's not all bad, is it?
No, could be worse.
Oh my goodness, Nina, you're going to have to send me some of your examples of your art. So I'm keen to see, your crafting.
Not all of it was good. One day I decided to weave, and I weaved a Moreland scene. It was awful.
Moreland scene? That's very specific. Was it somewhere you'd been recently, or what?
Well, I'm on the edge of Saddleworth Moor where I am.
Right. Okay, that makes more sense.
I'd made a little weaving thing out of string and an old drawer. And I got myself some wool.
You needed to send me a photo of that.
You don't need to see that. Nobody needs to see that. That's me.
I'll use it as the cover image for the film.
That's me and my dark lockdown secret.
Well, I'm afraid you heard it here first. Well, Nina, it's been lovely chatting to you.
And
thanks
too,
for
Rachel.
Taking time out of the day to talk to me. It's been really interesting, and really hope that we see some positive change, as you say, within the industry. Good luck with the campaign on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
See you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.